Hi everyone, this is Ben Nowak with Do It, and today's video is going to be your A to Z on soft bait making. So this is going to be the entire process, start to finish, to give you guys the demonstration on how easy it is to make your own soft plastic baits. Now, every step that we're going to show you in this video is going to have its own dedicated video. So if there's something that you want to learn more about or go further in depth with, you can go check out those individual deep dive videos that we've created for you. In this video here, we're going to be making two different baits. We're going to be making a Midwest finesse bait with our Precision Series CNC mold, and we're going to be making the ever famous Do It Molds Ripper in the ES XL mold, which is a sandcast product. These are typically two products that a lot of people use on the market, so we wanted to really showcase these and take you guys through the A to Z process of how to make these soft plastics. For these baits, we're going to be using the crystal clear formula, and anytime that you're starting to make soft baits, you want to really shake your plastic. And what this is going to do, it's going to mix all of the stabilizers and the plastisol that's in this jug right here and give you the best overall consistency so that way your plastics pour perfectly. So we're going to give this a shake. Once it's pretty well mixed, we're gonna set it down, let it settle before we pour it into our measuring cups. For this process, we're gonna be making two different colors. So we have two separate measuring cups, and we're gonna pour 12 ounces of plastic, about 1.5 cups into each one. That's gonna give us the amount of plastisol we need to shoot a bunch of these Midwest finesse baits, as well as these Do It Rippers. These ESXL molds, they have a ton of cavities. So by pouring a little bit more plastic, you can pour quite a few baits very, very quickly. Same with the Midwest Finesse, where you have a bunch of cavities in this mold. You can make 8 Midwest Finesse baits with one shot. So we want to mix up a decent bit of plastic so that way we can fill these molds and spend more time on the water at the end of the day. A big thing to note is when you're doing this process, have dedicated measuring cups and have a dedicated microwave. I can't stress this enough. You don't want to be using these products for things other than soft bait making. So when you're relatively new to making soft plastics, I would recommend starting in smaller intervals, about 30 seconds, and continually checking the temperature. This is going to make sure that your plastic isn't burning or overheating. Now that our plastisol is heated up to that 350-degree mark, we're going to add our colorants and our glitters, as well as some highlight powders. We're also going to grab some scent that we're going to add once we're done actually pouring the plastics. For that swim bait, we're going to be using this Pearl Essential Series colorant. That's going to give you a pearl whitish base. Then we're going to be using some 0.015 light purple flake, as well as some violet pearl highlight powder. This is all mixed together, is going to give you kind of that pearlescent, little bit of purple swim bait, which is really good up north when you're fishing around alewives, or really good down here for like that lavender shad sort of color. Then for those Midwest Finesse molds, we're going to be using our Junebug X2. This is the twice as concentrated, better for those more opaque colors. Then we're going to be using the moss green flake in the 0.015 and the 0.040 black flake. For me, this is a great overall flake to add depth to a bait, especially when it is a darker color, more opaque, solid style bait. And then finally, we're going to grab some bait bags. These are the laminate bags, as well as one of my favorite scents, the Triple Threat. It's just an overall really great scent to add to your baits when you're done pouring them. For that swim bait, like I mentioned, we're using the Essential Series. This is going to give us the desired opacity for those swim baits. And I'm just going to mix this in. So I'm adding a decent few drops, but I don't want to go crazy because you can never take your colorant out. Once it's in your plastisol, it's not coming back out. So the color that it is the color that it's either staying or it's getting darker. We're not really close yet. I'm going to add a handful more drops. We'll just keep stirring and checking. Now that we have it at the desired base colorant, which is that Pearl Essential Series, I'm gonna grab a small teaspoon. This is 1/4 teaspoon. And when you're adding your glitters, you really wanna be careful. You'll see a lot of people online try to dump their glitters in. This is something you can do as you get more and more comfortable, but when you're just starting, using these tiny measuring spoons is gonna really help you so you can kind of keep track of how much glitter you're adding. So in this case, I'm adding about 1/8 teaspoon, and then we're gonna mix it in, and you can always add more. Again, just like with that colorant, you can never take the glitter out, so once it's in there, you're stuck. One thing I'm gonna do is use the back of my spoon, a different spoon, so I can get an idea of what that bait's gonna look like. And you have that pearl with that 0.015 light purple glitter, and it really stands out in there. But I wanna give it a little bit more flash or highlight, and that's where these hyper highlights and the violet pearl are gonna come in. It's really gonna give a third dimension to that bait. And I'm just gonna mix probably a 1/16 to an 1/8 teaspoon of this in. This is pretty similar to the glitter in the sense that you just place it in your plastic and stir it in, and you'll start to notice that highlight carry throughout. What this is gonna do is just gonna add a little different hue and give the bait a little bit more shine as it comes through the water. So I don't wanna go too crazy with it. That's pretty much the finished color that we want. It's a pearlescent, a light purple highlight with that highlight powder, and then that purple 0.015 flake. It's gonna give you that really nice, natural, purple-esque style finish for those of you guys that like to fish those lavender baits for around those bait fish. For this process, you're gonna need these clamps. These clamps are what's gonna hold this mold together and prevent any flashing or denting. What you wanna do is firmly clamp these shut. Right now, we're gonna get ready to shoot this plastic. I'm just gonna stir it around one more time. And then I'm gonna take my single injector. So you're gonna push into the mold, light pressure, go to the next cavity. This is the ESXL mold, so you have a bunch of cavities. And what you wanna do is essentially go one by one, filling these cavities, because you're getting one ripper per cavity. It's gonna allow you to make a lot of baits really quickly. You can also dual inject, and you can make some really cool colors and a lot of baits very fast. Now that our plastisol is pretty much cooled, we're gonna remove the clamps and check out the finished product. And that is what our finished rippers look like. You have that little bit of pearlescent coming in from the highlight powder, that light purple flake with the pearl white base. And that's gonna be a great color anytime you're around alewives, up north, around shad. Anytime that you're out there swim bait fishing, just a white swim bait with a little bit of purple is a great color. Now that I pulled our plastic out of the microwave, I'm gonna be using the X2 colorant for these because I wanna make a dark color. I'm gonna be choosing the X2 June Bug, frankly, because there's not many June Bug baits on the market. So first thing you're gonna do is shake it up, and then I'll be able to start adding it to that molten plastic. And because this is a darker color, you're gonna need a little bit more of that X2 colorant. Once you mix it in, it's gonna really start to carry throughout. But the darker you want it, obviously, the more colorant you're gonna need. Even with those handful of drops that I started with, it's still pretty transparent, not quite the color I want or the opacity, so I'm gonna add some more drops. That should be good, hopefully. Now that we've reached our desired color, we can start to add our glitters. And this is where things start to get fun. Especially with these darker colors, you can mix some really cool colors together. Pretty much any color other than black, I'm gonna add a little bit of black flake. This is your black 040, so the largest high temp glitter. And then I'm gonna add some moss green. With these darker colors, I'll add a decent bit of these flashier style glitters to that. It's just gonna really allow it to create some silhouette and flash, even in that darker water. A lot of the waters back home that I'm fishing are gonna be those tannic style bodies of water. So having these darker colors like a June Bug that you can't typically find in Ned rig baits is a really cool color. I'm gonna add just about an entire quarter teaspoon here. Maybe not quite. And then we'll mix it in. You can start to see that green really shining. Again, mix it thoroughly. You wanna have that evenly distributed so you can get the best idea of what your end color is gonna look like. But that about quarter teaspoon, it's a really nice color right there. And then for the black, this I'm just gonna grab a decent bit. This is just to add depth to the bait. And that's going to be our finished color right there. That looks awesome. That's a perfect dark June Bug, some green and black flake, And that's gonna turn out to be a sweet Midwest finesse bait. While our plastic's heating up, I just wanna talk about this Precision Series mold. Unlike the ESXL where we had multiple cavities, you have a single injection port here at the top, and so you can use one single injection, push down, and make 8 Ned rig baits. We're gonna clamp this shut very similarly to the way we did that ESXL mold. Even pressure on both sides, and you'll be ready to go. Now that our plastic's liquid, I'm just gonna give it a quick stir, and I wanna show you guys the other method of introducing the plastic into your injector, which is essentially pouring it in. Now when you're doing this, you wanna make sure you have gloves on. Start with your plunger all the way out. I'm just gonna push down, make sure the plastic's flowing freely. Come over to my mold, even pressure till this mold fills all the way up, and just basically hold it there so that it'll start to solidify and top off that injection port. The moment of truth, unclamp the mold. I like to use the back of the spoon just to open it. And those are what your June bug Midwest finesse baits are going to look like. Now that we pulled all the baits off the runners, this is where we get to have some fun, package the baits and get them ready to take to the lake. So I'm just taking a laminate bag, placing my plastics in here, and this is just gonna allow for those baits to maintain their shape nicely. So you wanna lay them in there pretty flat. You can either add scent or worm oil. The worm oil is gonna prevent your baits from sticking together. It's gonna make them last a little bit longer, and it's just going to kind of overall improve the performance of your plastics. But I'm gonna be using scent in this case, that triple threat as we mentioned in the beginning. Again, you wanna fully incorporate this, just shake it up a little bit, and a little bit's gonna go a long ways. So once the baits are in the laminate bag, my scent's mixed up a little bit, like I mentioned, goes a long way. And then I'm just gonna add about 5 drops. Close it up. Shake the bag so the scent's on all of those baits and you're ready to go out fishing. Now that we bagged up our Midwest finesse, I'm gonna let these swim baits set out a little bit, let them fully set up, 24 to 48 hours, and then you can put them in a bag and take them to the lake. This is gonna give you the best swim bait every time to make sure they're perfectly running true without bent tails. So you're gonna have the best bait when you get on the lake. So this has been our A to Z video on how to shoot soft plastic baits, taking it from your liquid plastisol form, putting it in the molds, and ending up with a fishable swim bait and Midwest finesse bait. This can work with any of our soft bait molds, but if you guys have any questions about any of the steps in this process, we have deep dive, in-depth videos talking about everything A to Z, so go check those videos out.